Welcome back to the channel, and today we will be covering the Friday 13th remake, which came out in 2009, and it was directed by Marcus Nispel, starring Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees, Jared Padalecki, and Danielle Pennebaker. Given a budget of $19 million, this movie would go on and gross $92.7 million at the box office, making it the highest grossing Friday 13th movie other than Freddy vs. Jason.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Now, this movie came out during the height of the remake craze that the horror genre was seeing at the time, from the early 2000s to the mid 2010s, where we got remakes like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hill Has Eyes, The Crazies, and even Nightmare on Elm Street. And up until a few years ago, most of the reviews I hear about this movie is pretty negative. The things that I hear people say they don't like about this movie really to me makes absolutely no sense. And a lot of it are things that you could apply to any movie within the franchise. They really messed that movie up. Come on, man. You know Jason does not run. Do they even know Jason? Really? Have you seen part 2, 3, and 4? Explain this. Yeah, but Jason wouldn't take a hostage. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Are you serious, man? So you mean to tell me you accept the fact that Jenny simply put on a sweater and it confused Jason, but a woman looked identical to his mother wouldn't confuse him at all? You do realize Jason is a mother's boy with separation anxiety, right? But you have to admit, the fact that they gave Jason a home really means they don't know what Jason is. He's a man of the woods. He don't have a place to live. Have you actually seen 2, 3, and 4? You do realize Jason have this home right here, and he's literally trying to make his way back home to flush the toilet. But that character Trent, I hate him. He's such an asshole. He ruined the whole movie for me. That's the whole point. He's supposed to be an asshole. That way when he get killed, you're anticipating it. You do realize he's not even the worst character in the Friday 13th franchise. Melissa from part 7, she picked on a person with mental disorder. But before we get started, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button, share, subscribe, and due to some recent comments I received, just a reminder, subscribing does not cost anything. You do not have to pay anything to subscribe to the channel. It's just a way to let YouTube know that you're interested in the content being created and help the channel grow. So if you like the content and want to support this channel, please hit the subscribe button. It'll go a long way. And with that out the way, let's continue on.
And here we go.
Kicking things off with the positives, and the first one being this movie does a great job of combining the first 4 Friday 13th movies. The first 3 minutes of this movie, we get a recap of the first movie, which shows Pamela Voorhees being killed for her actions trying to retaliate for the death of her son. The first act, we get Sackhead Jason and other elements from part 2. The beginning of the second act, Jason finally gets his mask, which harkens back to part 3. And on top of that, we get elements from part 4, mainly dealing with the hitchhiker looking for his sister. So the way that they combine all 4 of the original movies to come up with their own unique story, to me that's definitely a positive. Moving right along into my next positive is Derek Mears as Jason Voorhees. As I've mentioned before on this channel, Derek Mears is my favorite portrayal of Jason. I love everything about this Jason, from his look to the way he's animalistic or his violent tendencies. He's fast, nimble, aggressive, strong. Out of all the Jasons in the franchise, even though you're pretty much dead if either one come after you, this is the one I want chasing me the least. His portrayal was pretty much flawless. He took what Ted White did and just added a little modern touch to it. And Derek Mears, as far as I'm concerned, is the best Jason Voorhees that we've ever gotten. This Jason is very mean and brutal. Most times Jason kills someone, it's a quick kill, but this Jason stretches it out. He deal out the pain. There's a scene at the very beginning where he take one of the campers, string her up in a sleeping bag above a fire, and pretty much cook her to death, which has to be one of the most painful, excruciating ways to go. So this Jason is really here to deal out the violence. And speaking of the violence, moving on to my next positive, the kills themselves. By now, the MPAA have backed off all of these movies. Times have changed where we are able to see more on screen. So the kills in this movie are top notch. And speaking of watching good kills, that's leading to my next positive, the way this movie is shot. The cinematography is fantastic. This is one of the more darker tone movies that we've gotten in the franchise. This is actually a pretty creepy, tense, scary movie. And a lot of that is due to the fact the way the movie was shot. The people that did the cinematography for this movie was the same people that were behind the Texas Chainsaw remake. And it really shows in this movie. The way things are framed, the way the music is incorporated, this is a very tense movie. We also get to see a lot of the kills, because like I said before, by now, the MPAA backed off. They're pretty much to a point in time where we could watch anything on screen without being so controversial. So the kills are shown in full glory in this movie. Which leads me to my last and final positive. While the character of Trent is really hated on, I do enjoy most of the characters within this movie. I don't hate Trent. I think he was an entertaining asshole. I know for some reason people seem to harp on the fact that he was a jerk, but to me he's not the worst type of villain within the movie. He's just a rich asshole. And some of his stuff and some of the things he says is actually pretty funny. I do like the characters between Chewie and I can't think of the black guy name, but they kind of play off each other very well. Them two together bring enough comedy to the movie, which kind of bring a little more levity. So it's not like ultra funny or take you out of it, just enough to let you know that these are human beings. And the rest of the characters, they kind of round out a good little group of kids. And so for me, the characters is definitely a positive. Now continuing on, I only have one mixed aspect, and for me, even though I do like the first 20 minutes of this movie, the reason why it's in my mixed aspect, the rest of the movie never reached that peak. This movie kind of blows its load a little early. The first 20 minutes of this movie is the best Friday 13th anything. If this was a 20-minute short film, this would by far be the best Friday 13th movie. But even though I really enjoy it, I distinctly remember being in the theater because the way they advertised the movie with the trailers, most of the people that showed in the trailer was the group that get killed at the very beginning. So about 10 minutes into the movie, you start noticing Jason picking these people off one by one by one. And I distinctively remember thinking, dang, he done killed almost every character already. But after he attacked the final girl, it quickly cuts to the title card and you realize that you were in for a joyride. But unfortunately, even though the rest of the movie is highly entertaining in my opinion, it never does quite reach those heights. So the fact that you got your climax within the first 20 minutes, even though it's fantastic, to me, I'm gonna have to put that in the mix. And continuing on, I only have two negatives for this movie. The first one being, I do not like the ending. The ending of this movie is very lazy. Not only have we gotten this same jump scare multiple times in the horror genre, we've gotten this exact same jump scare 2 or 3 times within this own franchise. The moment they walk out to that dock and everything get quiet, you know at some point Jason Voorhees is going to jump out the water. He grabs the final girl, and then it just fades to black. It's lazy, it's redundant, we've seen it a million times, it's not enjoyable, and for a movie that was so tense, it's really a letdown for this movie to end the way it did. So the ending is definitely a negative for me. And my last and final negative, due to no fault of his own, we never got a sequel to this movie. The fact that we never got a sequel to this version of Jason Voorhees is really a travesty within itself. Derek Mears, as I've said multiple times, is one badass Jason. I was really hyped and anticipating where they were going to take this storyline from here on out, because this Jason Voorhees was a little different. He was a little more animalistic, kind of more realistic if you was to believe somebody left out in the woods and had to live off of nature themselves. He's a hunter, he's visceral, he's angry, he's big, he's ferocious, he's fast. And I was really anticipating to see how they would carry this story forward. But unfortunately, we never got a sequel to this movie, and that is the biggest negative in my opinion. Overall, in my opinion, not only is this one of the best movies in this franchise, this is one of the best slasher movies of all time. And with that being said, of course, I'm going to say this movie is a classic. As you can tell, I really like this movie, so it's going to be very high on my ranking of the franchise. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my list? Do you hate this movie? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Remember, these are just my opinions, so let me know yours in the comment section down below, and keep your eyes open for my next video.